Welcome to part 2 of our SRX video. We're getting ready to pull the rear differential out of this SRX, and I'll show you what we had to do so far. As you can see, let me get you in there, we can see that we got her sitting between the rails, which is where we need it to be. It's kind of crooked. We'll straighten it up though. I think what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to turn that. We're going to have to lower the exhaust pipe just a little bit more for turning purposes. But we can do that, not a problem. All right, let me show you up front. It is important which bolts you take out. You've got 6 bolts that holds the drive shaft in. And you want the bolts that are short bolts. This has short and long bolts in it, so let me, the long bolts won't get you nowhere. It's the short bolts that do it. And that's what you want to see, because that alignment pin right there, that sits inside the axle shaft, or the drive line. So we got it clear. All we need to do now is just pull straight back, and this should be out of here. So I'm going to get you in a position where you guys can see what we're doing. We're going to try to extract this drive shaft, this differential from the vehicle. And then we got to get it on the bench. We got to change the seal. We got to change the bushing, which is bad, which is the whole reason why we're here. Alright, so let me get you right there where you can see okay. Don't mind those heat shields. And I think we're ready to pull back on that. We got it freed from the drive shaft, which is the challenging part. At least it was in this case. Alright, so we gotta jack this up. So we gotta get it to come free. And then we need to lower the jack down and pull it out. So I'm gonna lower the, oh, we're leaking, but that's okay. We're gonna leak. It's just a fact of life. See that? Now we'll pull the jack out and we'll drag that bad boy out of there. At least that's the theory. Yeah, don't worry if you're losing gear oil. You're gonna have to put new gear oil in it anyway. So if you lose a little bit, that's fine. This one had a leak, so I don't even know how much was in it to begin with. And we'll just put it on our jack. And we'll pull our jack out. And if we're lucky, we'll pull the jack out with the unit still on it. So let's see if we can do that. And pull our, grab our jack, see if we can pull our jack back here. This thing does not roll very well, this jack. It's our service jack out of our service truck, so it doesn't have the greatest rollability, but there's our unit. All right, so I'm gonna get this on the table. We're gonna start making some noise. So I'll see you at the table. And there's your rear differential out of your SRX. All right, so the reason we're here, okay, let me show you why we're here. We're here because of this. This is your, oh, what the hell they call that thing? It's a bushing. And so what's going on is when you put it in gear, you have a solid axle shaft. You don't have universal joints to take out the torque. So they put this bushing in here to substitute having a universal joint. All right. So what happens is you put your car in gear, you get your torque, engages right here on your pinion. This right here is supposed to take out the force. Okay, so when it goes boom, boom, this is actually absorbing all of that force, and therefore you don't feel it. Well, these go bad. This whole rear end slams into the floor. Okay, that's how you know it's gone bad, is because when you put it in gear, you feel a slam like it's coming from the back, and you old car guys think, okay, I got a bad universal joint, because that's what I thought. I crawled underneath here, found there's no universals in it, it's a straight shaft, but it's got this thing in there. Now let me show you. You see how bad that is? This right here, this is how they usually come apart, just like that. Not supposed to do that. This bushing's trash. So this bushing comes out from the back. So what I'm going to do to get it out is I have to use an air chisel. And we'll get at it from the back and we'll drive it out the back. And then to put the new one in, I've got a couple different methods we're going to try to get the new one in. The other thing we need to change out on this differential is this side seal. This is your axle shaft seal. It has failed because this whole side of the this whole side's wet. Okay, that's how you know a seal's gone bad. So first thing we're going to do though is we're going to take the fill plug loose, because we're going to drain this unit of all of its oil, because it's probably low anyway, and we're going to put new oil in it. So we're going to get this seal, going to get this broke free, and then we're going to drop the drain plug out of it and change the gear oil in this. Actually, we're going to leave it empty till we're ready to put it back in, and then we're going to fill it up. But we got to make sure our fill plug comes loose, because otherwise, if it don't, we can't refill it. I might have to use the impact on this. So let me go grab my impact. I'll break that loose, and then we'll get the other one broke loose, and then start getting some work done here. All right, let's get this fill plug loose. Now if you do it this way, be very careful. You don't have to put on too much force to it. It's an H10 bit, so see that? Broke it right loose. Got to do that. And we'll tighten it back up like that so that we don't lose it. And we got a drain pan right here. We're going to tip this thing forward like this, because our drain plug sits under here on the corner here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this back. Actually, let's move this. By the way, this takes 75W90 gear oil. I think it's synthetic gear oil, just in case you're wondering. The amount determines about how much. I couldn't find a spec as far as how much it takes to fill it up, but normally you just feed it through the, if I can get this thing to turn for you here, you feed it in the drain plug here, or the fill plug here, till it starts coming out, and then you know you got enough. So, all right, let's pull this over here. We can tip it on its side and it'll drain, but I'd rather not do it that way. I'd rather just get it over here to the side of the table and find my drain plug here, and then just break the drain plug loose and then let it drain into this drain bucket over here that we're going to put on the ground. Set drain bucket right there. Tip this thing over just a little bit to get to the drain plug, and you just take the drain plug loose, maybe, and you gotta get your socket up in there. All right. Let's get our floor drain plug here. Try not to make a mess everywhere, which is what we're trying not to do here. We might have to hold this for a few minutes while this drains, but try not to cross thread your screw. Wish some of my tools would work. Looks like we're draining out the side there, but that's okay. I'm going to drain out completely here in just about 2 seconds. And we made a big gigantic mess, but that's okay. You're going to make a big gigantic mess when you mess with differentials. Besides which, the boards needed a little bit of oil coating on them anyway. Just let that drain for a second. Alright, when you get that all drained out, it's almost like doing an oil change on your rear end, because it is. You want to look at your magnet. That magnet's looking pretty rough, so we're gonna wipe the magnet off on our wood here, and it's quite dirty, so I'm gonna have to go get a rag. Alright. We're not worried about making a mess on our table. Our table's used to it. So I need to go grab a rag so we can clean. I'll get a better look at your drain plug. That's after I scraped it on the table. So yeah, it's definitely seen some stuff. So I'll be right back. And after you wipe off your magnet, that's what it should look like, nice and clean. We're going to put this back in. Hand thread it. Do not use an impact gun. Just hand thread it. This car's got 140,000 on it, so I'm not surprised that there is a lot going on here. It should spin right in. There is a torque spec. I think it's something like 21 foot-pounds. We're just going to get it in there. We'll tighten it down when we got it in the car. So that way we don't have to worry about torquing it right now, because we got to get this bushing out next. All right, so a lot of people, let me bring it around here so you can see what we're doing. All right, so I've seen some people on STSs, because these are the same rear end they use in the STS. They'll cut the sleeve and then they'll drive it out that way. I don't have a chop saw or a reciprocating saw or anything like that. My one cutting tool won't get in there because it's meant for cutting exhaust pipes. So we're going to, first of all, I'm going to spray that down real good with some PB Blaster. And then I'm just going to go after the back side of it with my air hammer, with my chisel bit in it, and see if we can knock that out of there. I'm not going to film a lot of that because of the noise, but I'm going to, I'll bring you back in when I'm getting ready to pull that out. Or if I see something that may be of interest to you. So I'm going to get some noise going on here, and I'll see you in a minute. So as you can see, I've been beating the living crap out of this thing. I put a couple relief cuts in with my new chop saw there, so now I have one, and I thought I'd bring you in because I'm about ready to beat that out of there, which means we can move on. So I got my long blue handled screwdriver right here, okay, using my hammer, and I got a good notch right in here, right up against the side here, and I'm just beating on it. So let's see if we can get this thing out of here. There it is. There's our collar we had to get out of there. And we'll clean up our edges here. And just make sure we're nice and clean. Yeah. Yeah, when you cut those relief cuts, let me show you. See, the blade almost went all the way through. But see, what you got to do is you got to get the, I put 2 cuts in it. I did kind of like 2 right next to each other, like you see in there. You want to make sure that you don't cut. See, I put a little bit of a cut inside that boss right there. Shouldn't hurt anything. I don't think so. Now there's a couple ways you can put this back together. You can press it in with a bearing press. You can take a flat block of wood and a hammer and beat it in. If you're careful and you got a hammer bit for your air hammer, Once you get it set, you can just kind of just go around the outside edge of it. Let me show you what the new bushing looks like. So this is what the new bushing looks like. By the way, there's your part number for your bushing. All right. Get the bushing out. It looks just like the old one. It is directional, which means it goes in the same way the old one comes out. See, here's your bushing, all right? So the way you would put this back in is, since these flanges were facing out here, you're gonna put this in like this, okay? Now, what I'm talking about by using an air hammer is right here on these sides here. You can hit it with the air hammer and just kind of roll it back and forth till it goes all the way flush against the unit. You want to grease the living crap out of this. Also, very important, must note the orientation for which the old one came out. See, that's about where the old one sat. So that's how the new one goes in. And then what you want to do is you want to get some lubricant like oil or grease or whatever you can find. You want to put it all the way around the outside of the collar. Put some inside here. It'll make installation a whole lot easier. So we're going to get ready to install this. I think I'm going to use the there's one other method you could use too. If you get a socket big enough that goes around the outside of this and you can press on it this way, you can probably smack it in with a hammer. So there's many different ways you can do this. One thing I'm going to do though is probably get some well, I don't think I want to clean that out. I want to just kind of leave it like it is. So I'm going to go get some grease, and we'll see if we can get this centered and get this piece put in, because we still have to change that seal back there. So I'll get my seal puller while I'm at it and my seal driver kit, and we'll get this put together. Okay, we're going to do the beat down method. I've got my part here. This is a 38 millimeter axle shaft socket. It's got a nice flat end on it to beat on with. And we've got some Walmart Vaseline right here we're going to use for our slippery surface. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put a lot of that inside here. We're going to put a lot of that around this collar. Then we're going to line it up like that. Make sure that you're like that. And then as soon as we get it centered, because it takes a minute to center it, then we're going to take our socket. We're going to put the socket on the end like that. We're going to kind of hold it like that and beat it in with our hammer. And if everything goes well, we'll be ready to move on to the next part here in just a second, which is a lot easier. So let's get some slippery going on here. So take some of this and just kind of, you want to be as liberal as you can with this. Make sure you got a lot of it on here. You know, don't be ashamed. Use as much as you can on here. See, you want to get all right around this thing. The more slippery you have, the better, especially in this case. Don't worry about it. It will come back out. First hot day, it'll disintegrate and you won't have to worry about it. So we got our areas greased up. Now we're going to install this thing. I'm going to install this thing. So if you have somebody that can help you hold this down while you're pounding on it, that's probably a good idea. But if you don't, then just do your best. All right, we got our bushing nice and oiled up. We got our space ready to go. Make sure our points are lined up. We don't have any crap inside our bushing. All right, We'll do a couple taps to get it set. Once it's set, we will beat the living crap out of it to get it to go in there. All right, so we're gonna okay. Now we're a little bit crooked, but that's okay. We can straighten it out. All right, now you see how my table, my thing keeps moving? I got a ratchet strap attached to my table. We're gonna try to tie this down with the ratchet strap so it doesn't move. I do this because I don't have a vise. That should do the trick. We'll find out in a minute. Get our socket back on our part here. Kind of move your back here. Maybe use yourself as a holder and just kind of hold that in place and just. All right, now we're gonna change hands here. So I'm just smack it in. See that? It's pressing it right in. So I'm gonna get this pressed in and I'll bring you back and show you what it looks like when we're done. Because then we got an axle seal we got to change. That'll be a whole lot easier than that is. So let me get that pounded in there and I'll be right back. And there you have it, folks. 45 minutes later, beating the living hell out of that with your socket and that 10-pound sledgehammer that you see over on the corner there. We got it pressed in. Now it's very important that you do not use an air hammer on it, because air hammer is not going to do anything but bust your hand up. Air hammer in this situation is absolutely useless. That, and you end up making marks on your piece. Now this is flat up against it, just like the old one was. Any gap you may have, it'll adjust itself when you put the bolt in it. By the way, this is our bolt for this too. See, if it's just through there like that, there's a spot on the frame that this slides up into. So bushings in, ready to go. We got to get this seal changed. So let me unlock the table, because I got the table locked down here. We'll unlock the table. We'll rotate our differential assembly here after I get the strap off of it. Pull our strap off. All right, now to get the seal out, you can do it one of two ways. You can either use a seal puller, like this one here. You can use one of these. And this slides up in there like that and just goes out. You can use one of these, which does the same thing. They make these in different sizes. I don't have one big enough to fit this seal. So let me go grab the seal for that real quick. You're going to need a seal driver to put that in. So here's your seal. It's the 711066. It looks like this. I'll show you what it looks like here. See? Looks just like that. Fits right in there like that. Just the same thing you got right there. So we're changing this seal because it leaks, in case you're just tuning in. We're going to use our seal puller. Get right up inside there and just kind of pry back on it. And you might have to pop it a couple times. There it is. Try not to gouge the inside of your axle. Make sure you clean that up real good. And make sure you don't damage your axle. All right, now we're going to get the new seal, which looks like this. Now we could pop this in with a block of wood and be done with it. or we could set up our seal driver. I think we're going to just probably do it best if we used our seal driver, because I'm not going to screw this seal up. So if you haven't seen me use this little tool before, this is a pretty neat little tool. I bought this a while back. Every time I do seals now, I use this tool. So you got your seal surface. You want to find something you can sit flat up against it. This works fine. It's a 63 millimeter, but if you wanted to, you could go up to 65. Probably be better if we did 65. And then you set your tool up by you unscrew your handle here like this. I think that's a 1/2 inch bolt. Lock your tool on like that. Tighten down your screw to here. The purpose behind this tool is to make sure this thing gets seated properly. Do not grease this seal when you put it in. It goes in dry, because it's just going into aluminum, and you don't have to tap it in very hard. This is an easy seal to put in. Set your seal like that, set it right inside there. All right, and then you want to just take your hammer, come over here so you can see what we're doing here. All right, and then we're going to take our hammer, and we're just going to tap this seal in. Move that out of the way. You gotta get this upper corner here, this upper corner. Try to get this thing in as flush as possible. This is what's gonna seal up your axle. We got a little bit of a gap over here. We got to get that gap, so we're gonna kind of offset our tool over to the side. I don't like how that seats. Try to hit it a little bit more here. Our tool keeps wanting to come apart, so we're gonna have to kind of roll with it here. I'm gonna go ahead and there we go. That's more like it. Seal's in. And we'll just set our seal tool over to the side. We're ready to go. We're not going to put any oil in it till after it's secured in the vehicle. That'll be done last. Since we got this opened up here, we can open that up and put our gear oil in it. We're going to torque our bottom one after we get it mounted in the car. So now I'm going to take this over. We got a little bit of housekeeping to do underneath the car. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. So we're going to take you back to the car. Now, I'm going to try to set you in a spot where you can see what we're doing. We got a couple things we need to do underneath the car. We got 3 bolts that I took out yesterday thinking they would release the drive shaft. They do not. They don't release anything other than this rubber mount bushing that's attached. See them 3 bolts right there? I got to tighten those bolts up before we can put this back in the car. So I'm going to get that done real quick. Then we'll get you set up, and we'll see if we can get this bad boy put back up in here tonight. And then tomorrow we'll put the axles back in it. We'll put the knuckles back together. We'll put our hub bearing back in. We'll clean all this up. We'll get it back together tomorrow, and we'll hopefully get this back to the customer by Friday. That's the goal here. It was going to be tomorrow, but being that I had some things come up today, you know, stuff happens. So let me get that cleaned up right there, and then we'll get you in the viewing position to get this back in the vehicle. All right, we're back under our car. Just outside of camera view, you probably see the corner of it in the bottom of the screen. Is our nicely redone third member or carrier or whatever you want to call it, rear diff. So we need to get that underneath the car. We need to line up our attaching our pinion here. And then the goal for this video is to get the 3 mounting points attached and maybe get the exhaust back up, but I'm not putting too much into that. So see what you can see here. And we're going to get this back under here and back up in the cart. Yeah. Shouldn't have to worry about any oil leaking out of it since we took the fluid out of it already today. So got to get it on the jack. I'm going to pull the jack back here. Now, this jack does not roll very well, but it does its job when I need it to. Alright, now I got to get in position to pick that up onto the jack. Which I think we got a lot of room here. Let's pull this back down here. Kind of got it on the jack, not exactly how I wanted it. And you gotta shove it forward, move the spare tire device out of the way. Alright, we're underneath the car. Apologize for the lighting. We got our drive shaft installed. We got our differential installed. Had to get some help because that corner over there, it's a bit of a job. And to get the axle in, you got to drop the carrier bearing, which is up front here. You can barely see it with the light. It's right there, up there. That bearing's shot too. So if anybody knows the part number for that, it's an 07 SRX. Comment down below, and if you get to it before I do, maybe we can get this customer of mine here set up with a new carrier bearing. So what do we got left to do? Okay, we gotta lift the exhaust up and put our strap back across the bottom here. That's a 13 millimeter. Then we got to get in the back and we got to hook all of our hangers back up, which we're going to do right now. We're going to do the hangers first. So to do that, we're going to use our jack. We're going to jack the exhaust up, and then we've got a hanger we got to put back in right up in here, same spot on the other side, and then we got a double hanger down here on this tailpipe. We got a double hanger, so it's right up in there. So when part 3 starts, we'll be putting the axles back in it, put the spindles back in it. We're going to clean the spindles up from the hub bearing that went bad on us in part 1. We're going to get the spare tire put back up in here. We're going to get the basically just button it back up and get it ready to go home. Now, the customer tells me that they want to change out that carrier bearing in the middle, that center support bearing. That's an easy job to do, because all you got to do is just take the 3 bolts out that we put back in the back axle, take out the 2 bolts to hold the carrier bearing in the vehicle, which those are 15 millimeter, and then drop the back axle down, pull the bearing off, put the new bearing on, the new bearing, and then put your 2 bolts back in it, and you're good to go again. So might get a video on that one. So Anyhow, this will finish up part 2, and we'll see you next time on part 3.